All right, guys, moving on. Last topic, we're going to talk about comic book movie projects that we want to see happen. Some things that we might think are likely, but are not exactly on the horizon just yet. There's a few that I'm thinking of, but one that I've been sort of excited for. I don't know if anybody has read the Annihilation comics before, but I would love to see that. I had this whole thing where I thought it was possible that Endgame was actually going to be Annihilation. We can get into that later. But if you haven't ever read the comic book version of it, it's basically a story where you have 4 separate heroes, and they're off on sort of their own adventures, but all of these adventures relate to a larger plot that's going on. So they all end up converging into a major overarching story at the end. And I think they could do this with a number of characters. They obviously are not going to do it exactly like the comics, but there's Nova. They could bring in Star-Lord and have him play a big part in it. Obviously, Captain Marvel is out there. I don't know what they're going to do with all the Fox properties. Silver Surfer was a major player in the original Annihilation comics. And I'm sure they've got a ton of other people that they could possibly bring in, but those 4 hit me as likely possibilities if they were going to do any sort of a similar structure for an Annihilation event. But I'd really be looking forward to that if they ever got to it. That's one that stands out to me as something I'd be excited for. And it's possible that the entire cosmic realm that they're going for could lead to that. I don't know what they're going to do in Guardians 3. I've heard it's possible we're going to end up seeing characters like Phyla-Vell or maybe Moondragon as Drax's daughter.
There's also Adam Warlock that we need to remember too.
Right. No, that's actually a perfect one to mention. Adam Warlock's coming in. It looks like he's going to start off as at least some sort of an antagonist. I don't know if he's a villain or not, but in all likelihood, he'll wind up being a hero as well. And yeah, he could be a major player in an Annihilation event. But I was curious what you guys were possibly looking forward to. DeathMan, what you got, sir?
Well, I didn't choose story arcs from the comic books because I could be here talking forever for that. So I really did choose properties in terms of characters or teams that I think that I would want to see on the big screen. And there are a lot of them. So I had to sort of condense my list down. But it took a while for me to come around to this property with all the fans and people at Sakaar and Nowhere talking about it. But I do want to see a Thunderbolts movie. I think not just as an answer to Suicide Squad, which is the reason I was resistant to it at the beginning, but because going back, revisiting Thunderbolts, which I had to do, I had to catch up on my education on that team. There's a lot that the redemption arc that goes on in the Thunderbolts as a property, those villains sort of coming back around to do these things. I think it's stronger than Suicide Squad, based on the material that's out there. So things like Nova, I want to see that character in the MCU. I even want to see things like Dazzler, right? That seems like an unconventional choice. But I think it would further the conversation around mutants. You have a successful singer who's had this career, who puts on these great pyrotechnic shows at her concerts, and no one quite knows how she does it, but that she is the light show, So I think that there's an audience for that kind of stuff, but really, what I want to see is Marvel to push deeper into horror. So for those of you who are thinking that In the Multiverse of Madness is going to be a horror film, I'm sorry to disappoint you. It is not going to be a horror film. Nope. It will have elements of horror in it, but the way Kevin Feige and company backpedaled on the idea that they were making a straight horror film, Derrickson's departure, Doctor Strange 2 is not going to be a horror movie, and we should all just sort of accept that. And I get it. But I do think that there are opportunities with other more obscure characters to push into that genre. I like Wonder Man for the big screen. I don't know if you guys know that character, Simon Williams. Mm-hmm. Huge fan of that. And not a lot of people know, but his origin, Wonder Man is a revenant. He is a zombie that was resurrected from the grave and transformed into this ultra powerful energy-based being. And I think coming back from the dead, the being traumatized by the knowledge of knowing what lies beyond the grave, you can kind of put Wonder Man into a horror setting, I think, very easily. I'd like to see a Jericho Drum movie, Brother Voodoo. Yes, I think they could pull it off. And people are like, well, they kind of already did Doctor Strange. But Jericho Drum is the darker side, black magic versus the clean white magic of the Doctor Strange world. I see the movie set up with Jericho sort of being forced to return to his native Haiti to solve his brother Daniel's murder. And in investigating that murder, he sort of becomes immersed in the world of the occult. And he's kind of like Doctor Strange in that he comes from a conventional world of traditional Western medicine and science, but to be steeped into this darker magic. And the character just has these weird aspects to him in terms of Jericho Drum, his brother Daniel gets resurrected as a spirit and they can merge into one individual. It's weird that he can kind of use his brother as this spirit creature or totem that gives him strength from beyond. I think there's a lot of you'd have to be mindful of cliches and not sort of turning, not falling into cultural tropes with Brother Voodoo. But I think we need to see the other side of magic, the occult side. And I don't want to see it with Hellstrom. They really messed that up on Hulu. I think Drum would be a best guess on that. And my third and final one, guys, for the horror push is, believe it or not, Namor. I think Namor would be an incredibly good match for the horror genre. And I see this as a period piece set at the dawn of deep sea exploration. You have a ship like HMS Challenger. The crew is kind of set out on this search to find this mythical merman of the deep, right? That Namor is kind of like this legendary figure. And I want to see him become the antagonist of his own movie, right? So while you have these people who feel that they're going to find and capture Namor, they have no idea the terror that awaits them at the deep, and that the crown prince of Atlantis is a force to be reckoned with. I see it as a tight, encapsulated submarine horror picture where you have Namor as the villain, the monster who's sort of lurking behind every corner, trying to protect the knowledge of Atlantis, and have him tearing people apart. That's Namor's shtick, right? He's the angry guy. I don't want to see the neon light show Atlantis we got in Aquaman. Cool, if that's your thing, right? I was like, this is like a laser light show, not knocking Aquaman. But that version of Atlantis is a vision that I don't want to see translated to the MCU. I think of Atlantis as a dark place, as a place that is hidden, mysterious, kind of even gothic, and less of like Wakanda underwater, right? Which is what they did with Aquaman. And that goes to design choices in CGI. They chose to make Aquaman's Atlantis ultra futuristic, and I was like, okay, I don't get this, but that's what it's like down there. I would love to see, the Prince of the Deep sort of emerge as a fearful protector of Atlantis in a nice period piece. I think they could bring back the Defenders, or not the Defenders of Netflix, but the Defenders in terms of Doctor Strange, Namor, and the Hulk as a weird kind of trio. Make it mystical. The first Defenders comic book, I think, can be translated to a movie easily. All three of them had to get together because they have like weird ties to the world of the occult. Doctor Strange is a sorcerer. The Hulk seems to have some precognitive ability, which allows him to see other dimensional beings and ghosts that other people can't see. That the Hulk has this ability. It's a known power set of the Hulk in the comic books. And of course, Namor, being the Prince of Atlantis, Atlantis was the epicenter for where this invasion was happening. These interdimensional sort of horror creatures were coming from the sea, kind of like Pacific Rim. So they had to get together to kind of solve that kind of horror crisis. And I think that would be perfect for the MCU pushing a little bit more into the horror genre, which I'd like to see. But on the DC side, without going into lengthy descriptions about this stuff, but I think they need to bring in Legion of Superheroes. I think that's a great way to backdoor Superman in an incredible reintroduction. You have to miss Superman in order to really understand his value. Seven Soldiers of Victory, Zatanna, Challengers of the Unknown, the second Sandman, not the one that's been so popular these days, but the Wesley Dodds version, Adam Strange, and the Dial H series from DC. If you've ever, that is such Dial H isn't a hero, but it's the device, and you dial it and it gives you superhero powers temporarily. Long staple of the DC universe that I think would make a great movie.
The idea of bringing the Thunderbolts in, I'm absolutely sure they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if they're going to get a special movie to themselves or not, but I hope they do. It'd be great. And then Dr. Voodoo, I mean this in the best possible way, but I think the idea of that on like Disney Plus sounds like an awesome show to.
Yeah, I could go for that, even if it didn't make it to the big screen. But the allure of sort of dark magic in the MCU is kind of what I'd like to push into.
No, that sounds great. Max, did you just speak up? I thought maybe.
Yes, the concept for Silver Surfer I picture as a sort of spread throughout a couple of different films, little clips. You start with people you don't even know in a futuristic city having a pretty normal day. You can see that this is an advanced society, everything's normal. The next time you see these guys in a clip in the film, you realize that something is impending and the society is in a bit of concern. And you can do that through a couple of different clips in one or two films, and you could have the entire Silver Surfer backstory more or less put together and set up dealing with his agreement to serve whatever threat is in front of him.
Well, I'm not a comic book reader, so there's not much new property that I would know that I would love to see. I would love to see a good Superman movie. That's been a while. And yeah, as a Hulk fanboy, I would love to have a Hulk solo movie again, a good one. I have a lot of love for the Incredible Hulk. I have a lot of love for Ang Lee's Hulk, but it's been too long since we had a good Hulk movie. And I would love to have a good new Hulk movie solo, but I know that's a little bit impossible with Universal not playing ball. I have my hopes set up on Amy Pascal, who joined Universal in some sort of capacity. So maybe she wants to play ball in Marvel Studios the way she did at Sony.
I think there's a lot of mileage left to go with the Hulk. I don't know if they'll do a solo. I mean, hopefully they do, but I think they can get a lot out of him. There's a whole, turn he could take where, he's separated from him, where he's reemerged, where he's more vicious. I don't know if it's World War Hulk exactly or Savage Hulk but there's a lot of stuff that they could do with him. And I think they've only barely touched on the idea of Banner being out on his own, just exploring and trying to be removed from society. I think all of that's great stuff.
Yeah, the only thing is they now have the Professor Hulk, of course.
I'm curious. I hate to interrupt, but Wellibers, what is it that you want to get out of a Hulk movie? This is like informal, quick survey.
No, it's not so much that I have a specific want or need. I just want a new Hulk movie, and I trust Marvel enough to make a good movie. Only my fear is that they won't. Besides the business point of, is that they actually kind of finished this arc in Endgame. The Hulk is at peace, and that's the problem. But as a kid, my first superhero was Hulk with the Billy Bixby show, and I always had a love for the character, and I would love to have more. There's only one Hulk super movie in the MCU, and I think that's a little bit too less. But his arc is sort of done, so I don't see it happening anytime soon.
I could see them getting to his arc is done, but I could see them getting to maybe instead of them being as merged as we think they are, like Hulk is somewhere in there feeling a little repressed. Maybe, and he overreacts to this, and who knows how they could do it, but I know they've had arcs where they were totally split before, and you had this complete lunatic, loose cannon Hulk running around, and everybody had to work together to stop him. I could see something like that happening. It'd be interesting to work to getting Banner completely on his own versus being merged. I don't know. I think there's some material they can still play around with it.
But I think they are gonna start using She-Hulk after her show, Disney Plus show. She will evolve into the movies and stuff like that. And I think Bruce Banner / Hulk will go a little bit to the background. But that's the feeling I have. And I think it's a waste or shame, actually. I would love to have more Hulk movies in the MCU. But that's purely the fanboy talking. And it's not based on any story or anything, or even that it makes sense in the future of the MCU. It's just the fanboy.
It's a desire to have the film. I want to add one quick note to a Hulk story. I don't know what I want from a Hulk movie either. They could go horror. It could be super action. I don't have a particular vision, but I do know that I want them to bring certain pieces of the mythology back. such as the way the Hulk is sort of drawn to the site of the gamma bomb. It kind of calls to him like this kind of homing beacon, the place where he was born. They need to bring Rick Jones into the mythology as the sidekick. All of these pieces of the mythology of the Hulk that they've sort of sidelined in a lot of the movies, I think Ang Lee has come the closest to getting at the psychology of the character, whereas the Incredible Hulk was just kind of a beat 'em up, a great entertainment, but absolutely no psychological depth when it comes to the Hulk. And I think I know that there are a lot of younger fanboys that just kind of want to see the Hulk smash things for 90 minutes, but some of us who've gotten a little past that want a deeper dive.
The most interesting part of the Hulk is the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde theme that is incorporated into this character, and to explore that more. And I have a lot of love for the Incredible Hulk. I know we disagree on this, LordDeathMan, but if you permit me, I just love that movie, and I think that aspect of is certainly in there. You see Bruce's struggle with the Hulk inside. He doesn't want to use it. He wants to get rid of it, etc. So I agree that Ang Lee's Hulk is quality-wise a better movie, no doubt. But I don't think the Incredible Hulk is as superficial as
I make it out to be in my long tirades. Yes.
So I'm sorry, we have to disagree on this.
That's fair, man. And like I said, I don't think the Incredible Hulk has zero value. I just think Ang Lee, and that's not a perfect movie. The 2003, special effects issues, pacing issues, but you
have to have some patience for that movie.
You do. But I do think in terms of overall mood and atmosphere and understanding the underlying psychology of the character, what makes the character so special, I think Ang sort of hit the nail on the head with that. A lot of the things where you see him separate and apart from the Hulk in the mirrors, the Hulk lurking at these doorways in the subconscious mind, that was great stuff, and it's really hard to argue that. Again, the Hulk being drawn back to the gamma bomb, it happens a lot in the early comic books, and I find it to be so kind of touching that the Hulk really is an infant, and he was born when a bomb went off. He doesn't have parents. He has no tether or connection to the world from a biological standpoint. So going back to this place of this early trauma in his psyche always sort of makes sense to him. If you start the Hulk randomly walking in a direction, if he's in China, he will start walking back to where the bomb went off and where he was created. I find that to be really interesting.
Biz, I know you were itching to say something, sir. What do you have?
Yeah, I was just going to say that they can't legally use Hulk in a solo movie. I mean, that's why they have the She-Hulk series, but the thing is that we do have one other thing to look forward to. Like there is that theory, She hands Thunderbolt Ross a serum. It's like a serum from the super soldier. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's a strong possibility that Ross will turn into Red Hulk. But yeah, that would be definitely interesting. But also I wanted to say on that note with what possibilities there could be of like comic book movies in general. I have a strong feeling that if the shows are like, I'm going to say the shows are successful. I mean, assuming. But the thing is, with the characters in those MCU shows, I have a feeling if they're popular enough, they'll eventually be in a team up movie. And at that point, if they're even more popular, then they could easily turn into like a movie character.
I think so. I mean, I think She-Hulk's being set up that way. I'm not sure. I'm sure Bruce is going to have some sort of involvement with her. I don't know how much, or if you're just going to see him a little bit. Yeah. But I'm sure he's going to have some, and then to ultimately elevate her. We obviously know Wanda's going to go straight into Multiverse of Madness. They're definitely not opposed.
It's not like they're going to have a TV side of things and a movie side of things. They're going to intertwine, and actually stuff from characters that are not movie based are going to be on the TV shows and vice versa. And even characters that start out as a TV character will get movies in the end or whatever. I think they're just going, it's not written in stone or anything.
I had another thought on a Bishop movie following kind of a 12 Monkeys type concept that would fit in well on the heels of the Infinity Gauntlet stuff. I think the times that they went back to return the time gems could throw off his time travel and lead to his appearing in certain eras where they had shown up with the gems also. So I think it could be a pretty fun film to put in there. He's tied to the X-Men, but he's not an X-Man in the traditional sense, so he's less of a introduction than some of them could be. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I would have a lot of fun seeing a Bishop thing in the realm of 12 Monkeys, where you've just got all of this, him going back, but not really knowing exactly what the threat is because of being warped in his time travel.
I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before on on Sakaar, but basically it was a whole reboot of the DC universe where it starts off with Superman in space. And where he would have a journey along the way. He would have to try and get back to Earth, but he starts off out in space, and then he meets the Green Lantern along the way, and also Hawkman and several other characters that are in space. While Aquaman and Wonder Woman, they're still on Earth, mind you, and then he'll face enemies like Brainiac along the way, and him stealing Kandor and the bottle. And yeah, he'll just move along then, and then he gets back to Earth, only to see Earth being taken over completely by some force, say it's Zod, and then because they think we've just saved everything in space, and now we're going back to Earth, but the Earth has been taken over. So, and then Aquaman is fighting a fierce war with those kind of evil forces, and then that's how it would play out. It's Aquaman has an army, Wonder Woman has their army, and then Superman comes in and kind of saves the day in a way. That's how it would reboot the DC universe anyway.
I've got no DC theories. Anybody else?
None here. I think that they're content to go with their individual film cadence of not linking things together. So it kind of precludes the idea that they would ever want to reboot and create a continuity. I think they feel like they tried that game, tried to go head-to-head with the MCU and Marvel Studios, and they had to find something that was a better fit for them.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I think this could be it, just standalone films.
I agree. DC, actually, the best movies they put out the last few years, and best is, they are the standalone ones, sort of. Like Shazam, that was fun to watch. I mean, it wasn't a great movie or anything, but it was fun to watch. The moment they go back to the Snyderverse, it just doesn't work.
Akbar tells me it's that's the
Well, we can have the discussion at another time. I'm looking forward to this.
Have me on the show that Akbar makes his debut on, please.
I'm trying to talk to him about it, man. I want him on.
Yeah, but this is a different Akbar though, that's going on, because that's elect Akbar that was talking about that. That was because you said having the actual President Akbar on this, the one who mentioned it was Force Ghost Akbar.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the one I was just talking about, who said the Snyder Cut is going to be the next big thing, is that's I don't know. I just call him Classic Akbar.
Is that Darth Akbar?
That's President Akbar or Darth Akbar right now. That's the one Archer's talking about.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about President-elect Akbar.
Oh, he wants to come on.
No. Darth Akbar is the one.
Elect, and he was joking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he was joking. It was a joke. It was President.
Then there's also Lord Akbar, and then there's the other Akbar. We've got 4 Akbars on Sakaar now.
There's so many Akbars.
It's easy to mix the squid people up.
All right, guys. You guys had a lot more detail here than I thought, or even had any idea that we were going to get into. It's so hard to pick these topics, man, because you guys just you'll go off on stuff, and I think it's great. So I really appreciate it. But just to anybody who may be listening, whenever you are, we do invite you on to not only Sakaar, come check us out there. We've got links below, but also to join us here. This is no exclusive club. We like talking to anybody who wants to get on here. We've had a number of people on already, and everybody on the site is welcome to come on. So find us here, let us know your thoughts, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.